When Vision wakes up, he's not just a fancy new character, he's specifically a creation, an amalgamation of the collective actions of the Avengers, and thus carries their distinctive qualities. He's produced from Thor's hope, Tony's persevering need to give something to the world, and Steve's stern convictions in the form of his interference. Therefore, there's two ways to understand Vision. Firstly, he's a character in his own right, whose inherited attitudes puts him on a journey that explores love, growth, and sacrifice, just like its creators.
Captain, 70 years ago, you laid down your life to save how many millions of people? Tell me, why is this any different?
And secondly, on a more thematic level, you can understand him as the symbolic payoff for the entire MCU, because he gives a conclusion to all the conflicts surrounding the themes of technology, identity, and time, which are key concepts in Tony, Steve, and Thor's personal franchises. So the purpose of this essay is to look at how both of these readings work and see how they fit together.
I'm beginning to think we should have stayed in bed.
As children, we're all subject to natural emotional impulses and are always constantly cultivating values and behaviors from external sources. Burns studied this with the transactional analysis, and Vision's arc firmly fits into this process. The first act of his journey is in Age of Ultron, and Ultron himself basically represents Vision's starting point as a being that is shaped by a position of chaos and judgment.
They're doomed.
Yes.
But unlike Ultron, Vision crosses the first threshold by unwilling to succumb to a feeling of superiority. His personal humility allows him to find beauty in the weaknesses of others. Therefore, it ultimately gives him the worthiness to pick up Mignola and become a member of the Avengers, involving himself in the cultural values of man.
Stark asked for a savior and settled for a slave.
I suppose we're both disappointments.
The second act is in Civil War, where Vision faces his personal trials. First, it's his growing romance with Wanda. She likes him because he's so deeply sincere.
Viz, we talked about this.
Yes, but the door was open, so I assumed that...
Vision went out of his way to save her at the end of Age of Ultron, where she was totally willing to accept her death. And also, one of her powers is the ability to exploit the dark side of people, from desires to traumas to fears, but Vision has none. He was born yesterday, so he's too innocent to have these negative characteristics.
I looked in your head and saw annihilation.
Look again.
Therefore, she finds solace in his presence, and Vision, he likes this connection because, as he always does, he sees beauty in the fragility of life.
No one dislikes you, Wanda.
Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. No, it's an involuntary response in their amygdala. They can't help but be afraid of you.
Are you?
My amygdala is synthetic, so...
Although in the end, she rejects her membership to the collective by leaving, and this breaks Vision's heart. But it also opens it to a new pathway in life, because during the whole film, his entire identity pivots around its connection with the Avengers community. When he was trying to keep the Avengers together in the face of disagreements, he tries to present an equation that promotes collective responsibility.
I'm saying there may be a causality. Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict.
Which is technically inaccurate. Loki and Hydra would have done what they did, regardless if they were heroes around or not. The only real villains that were motivated by a sense of rivalry were technically Tony's villains. But that's also kind of the point. Vision doesn't really see individuals, but communities.
And what do you want?
For people to see you. As I do.
He convinces Wanda to stay in the compound out of the rhetoric of ALTRUISM. When she leaves, he pleads by warning her that she's forfeiting her place in society.
If you do this, they will never stop being afraid of you.
And during the airport fight, he asks Steve to think about the collective good.
I know you believe what you're doing is right, but for the collective good, you must surrender now.
Therefore, Vision's home is characterized by its humble and innocent membership with everyone else around him. And Wanda represents the new frontier, the forbidden world that he has to enter in order to become an individual. And what pushes Vision is his first mistake. He accidentally shoots War Machine and permanently disables him. His personal guilt dissipates his connection with the Avengers and consequently feeds back into his love for Wanda. Their final shots in the film mirrors each other. Therefore, the third act explores Vision's newfound identity by having him run off with Wanda. She teaches him to speak for himself and to love himself.
You know what? I'm just going to speak for myself. I think it works. It works.
It works.
Which is why he's totally willing to move away from his inherited self-sacrificing Captain America attitude when he's given the opportunity to save himself.
We need to destroy the stone now.
Vision, get your ass back on the table.
But ultimately, calamity strikes and Vision has to die, and in his final moments, he returns back home to his kind nature by choosing to die for everyone else. But he also still has his new individuality because he's there with Wanda, and it's rather poetic. The person that taught him to be an individual has to kill him in order to protect the community.
If he gets the stone, half the universe dies. It's not fair. It shouldn't be you, but it is.
But Thanos gets the last laugh because he reverses time and kills Vision himself. Vision has a very straightforward arc because he's only appeared in 3 films. Therefore, all 3 acts of his journey is very clearly segmented, and they fit together to tell a story of what Burns called the adapted child state, where the child learns to develop their feelings and behaviors in response to the world around them. Vision learns love, guilt, fear, depression, and pride in order to comply with the world, but without Wanda, he would have entered the negative side of the state, because he was so focused on pleasing everyone else that he was beginning to develop the anxieties and pain when things didn't go his way. Subsequently, his love story prevented this by manifesting his ability to be spontaneous.
Well, there are people who are expecting me too, you know. We both made promises.
Not to each other.
He's able to preserve his natural child state, and thus, Vision's journey is really all about the perseverance of love.
But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. It's a privilege to be among them.
The first phase of the MCU started with Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and Captain America, and they all shared stories about time in some capacity.
Don't waste your life.
Tony was afraid of not only losing his life, but wasting what's left of it. Bruce's life was trapped by a single regret. Steve was afraid of Hydra's modernity, and Thor was overwhelmed with nostalgia to the point that it was self-destructive. Every character started at a point where dealing with social transitions, often symbolized by technology, was very much the driving pattern that brought them immense pain.
I went under. The world was at war. I wake up, they say we won.
Therefore, in the same way that the Science Bros basically provided a connective tissue between these patterns, Vision by nature offers closure for these themes.
Your mind is made up of a complex construct of overlays. Jarvis, Ultron, Tony, me, the Stone. All of them mixed together, all of them learning from one another.
He is the hopeful climax for a series of ideas surrounding fear because the happy union between the themes of technology and time concludes the subject.
Are you? On our side.
Maybe I am a monster. I don't think I'd know if I were one. So there may be no way to make you trust me, but we need to go.
Vision, by simply being friends with Captain America, resolves his anti-modernity conflict. Vision is created precisely because Thor was looking into the future as opposed to being obsessed with his inherited past. And Vision is also the answer to Tony and Bruce's midlife identity fears.
I'm caught in a time loop. This is exactly where it all went wrong.
I know. I know what everyone's going to say, but they're already saying it. We're mad scientists.
Marvel Studios has an obsession with cultivating meaning from their own interpretations. On a plot level, they were able to arrange everything so it sets the stage for Infinity War, but on a thematic level, they're able to use their arrangements to craft logical themes and conclusions for their characters in Endgame because they're so deeply self-conscious of these patterns. They're fully aware of what the characters represent, and as a result, how they need to change for those ideals to have meaning. Therefore, Vision is like this exact creative technique come to life because he's a symbolic anchor. His very existence officiates these patterns by giving it thematic attention. This actually then feeds back into the interior text itself because Infinity War is built around protecting Vision. The heroes are trying to, more or less on a meta level, trying to preserve the wisdom of the continuity. So when Vision dies, the connection that he represented is lost and everyone is fragmented. For death to win, hope has to die, even for the brand itself. And what's deeply fascinating about this on a cultural level is that unlike his cohorts, the creative dialogue that created Vision wasn't fiction and real life, but between fiction and fiction. Captain America was created as a reaction to the landscape of World War II. Tony Stark was Stan Lee's deconstruction of the 1960s American industrialist.
So I thought, I'm gonna get a guy who makes munitions, and something the kids would hate.
Hulk was related to the fear of the atom bomb. Therefore, the MCU version of Vision is very similar to the comic version of Jessica Jones and Kamala Khan. It's fiction inspiring fiction within the fiction. The complexity of the MCU bubble has reached a point that, like the comics that inspired it, its ideas and mythology is now self-producing.
You know, I don't know what this is. It empowered Loki's staff, gave you your abilities, but its true nature is a mystery.
Vision encompasses two conversations, as a character and as a turning point for the type of media convergence that the MCU represents, in terms of sharing features from another medium, that is. Therefore, Vision's story about maturity works on its own and as a metaphor for the MCU's development, where cultivating old ideas works to produce life. They fit together because for one to operate, it requires an understanding of the other. Why am I recording this goddamn video at the middle of the night?
Wanda.